Which 360 camera should you buy in 2022? Whether you want the best image quality or you want the most affordable camera with decent quality, I'm going to show you the best 360 cameras for every budget. For each one, we'll talk about the deal makers and deal breakers. These are features that you might absolutely need and the weaknesses that might disqualify a camera for you. By the end of this video, you'll know which 360 camera is best for your needs. Now, before we do that, let's talk about image quality because that's something a lot of people care about. And to avoid bias, we'll do a blind comparison. I'm going to show you video clips first without telling you the names. Now let's have a look.
First, let's compare camera A and camera B. They look somewhat similar, but camera B looks a little bit faded. What you're seeing is glare. Camera B is more susceptible to it. But camera A has more speckles, which is noise. Camera A also has these dancing blocks, which are compression artifacts. In terms of detail, camera B also has a little more detail than camera A. So overall, I'd say camera B has better video quality. Now let's compare camera B and camera C. Even without zooming in, camera C looks much more detailed than camera B. Camera C also has less glare, but camera B has less noise and less compression artifacts than camera C. Overall though, I prefer camera C's video quality. Now let's compare camera C and camera D. Without zooming in, they seem similar, although camera D has higher contrast and shows less shadow detail. On the other hand, camera D looks more detailed and has less noise and less compression artifacts. In the outdoor scene, I got the same result. I'd say camera D has better video quality. Now let's compare camera D and camera E. Camera E has noticeable glare. It also has extremely high contrast and almost no detail in the shadows. I tried boosting the shadows in post to see if we could get any detail, but there's just no shadow detail. It's too bad because camera E has less noise and less compression artifacts and a decent amount of detail, but overall I prefer camera D. So which camera was which? Camera A was Insta360 One X2. Camera B was the Qandao Qoocam 8K. Camera C was the GoPro MAX. Camera D was the Ricoh Theta X. And camera E was Labpano Pilot 1.
When choosing a 360 camera, you first need to determine whether you plan to use it for photo or video or both. So let's say it's video or both photo and video. Well, here are the top 360 cameras for videos based on budget. If you want the cheapest 360 camera that has decent video, then I recommend the Qoocam Fun. This is a 360 camera for your phone. It plugs to your phone, lets you take 4K 360 videos. The videos are stabilized and are saved automatically to your phone. No need to struggle with wireless connections. The app also lets you reframe the videos into non-360 videos. Now let's talk about deal breakers. First of all, it's Android only, and your phone must have a USB Type-C port. Second, you can't use it by itself. You have to connect it to your phone, so this makes it unsuitable for sports. The next tier is 360 cameras up to $400. First is the GoPro MAX. Now when we did our comparison, we saw that the MAX has one of the most detailed 360 videos, almost as much detail as the Theta X, and with better stabilization. So does that mean it's the best 360 camera for video up to around $400? Well, not necessarily, because of a couple of deal breakers. First, there's no external microphone. That's a big problem when you're using a 360 camera for vlogging. Why? Because most audiences will overlook bad video, like shaky or grainy video, but they won't forgive bad audio. And if you use a 360 camera on a selfie stick, the microphone will be too far away to get good audio.
Notice the glare. Now I'm gonna change the position to minimize the glare.
The only way to get good audio on a 360 camera is to use a microphone. Now, to be fair, you can use an external recorder and then synchronize the audio in post, but when you get home, you'll have to match the video files with the audio recordings, and that's a pain. The second potential deal breaker for GoPro MAX is the file format. If you want to use the full 5.7K resolution, then you have to use Cineform. Cineform is great if you're a professional because it has low compression, so you get the best quality. But for casual users, Cineform files are much larger than MP4 files. How much larger? Well, as a test, I took a 5-second GoPro MAX video, and in MP4 it was 46 megabytes. The same exact file in Cineform was 412 megabytes. That's 9 times larger. That's gonna fill up your hard drive really quickly. There are other good options up to $400. One of them is the Insta360 One X2 and the other is the One R. Both of these are among the most popular 360 cameras because they have a long list of deal makers. First, the best mobile workflow, unquestionably. Insta360 cameras are the only 360 cameras that let you edit your video on your phone without having to download them first. That saves a lot of space on your phone. They also have a new quick reader accessory that speeds up the mobile workflow. You can find out about that in this video. Second, for desktop editing, you can export in either MP4 or if you want low compression like Cineform, you can export to ProRes, which is similar. It also has many options such as the ability to customize the stitching or the ability to save different edited versions. Third, they both have an invisible external microphone option. And fourth, the Insta360 One R is also the most versatile 360 camera. It can convert to an action cam or even an invisible drone. You can check out my video about that here. Alright, so what about deal breakers? Well, that's the thing with the One X2 and the One R. They don't have significant deal breakers. Now, some people were annoyed that the Insta360 One X2 was nerfed on the iOS. Specifically, you cannot connect the camera to your phone via USB cable unless you bought your Insta360 One X2 from Apple. Now, to me, that's not much of a deal breaker because you can't do that on most other cameras anyway. Another issue is that the One R's waterproofing is less reliable because there are more ways for water to get in if you are not careful. So because the list of deal breakers is so short, the One X2 and One R are extremely popular. The next tier is 360 cameras up to $800. At this budget, another option is the Theta X. Now you saw that it has the most detailed videos with excellent color accuracy. It's also the most affordable camera with real-time stitching with stabilization. That means no need to stitch your 360 videos on your app. And if you care about photos, this is also one of the most detailed photos at this price range, as you'll see later. Now, deal breakers, yes, there are several. The stabilization is not that great, and it's not waterproof, so I wouldn't recommend it for action. Second, there's no external microphone option. And third, the mobile workflow is not that good. You can only view and edit videos up to 4K 30 FPS. And if you shot at 4K 60 FPS or 5.7K, then you can't view the video at all. And at $800, it's about twice the cost of the One X2, One R, or GoPro MAX. Now, what if your budget is over $800? Well, one option is the Qoocam Enterprise Edition at $2,000. It can shoot at 8K and is the only one in this group that can shoot 10-bit video. It also has an external microphone input. And with editing on mobile, you can download proxy files to save space. Now, deal breakers. The Qoocam 8K gets softer focus when it heats up, and I've seen several with swollen batteries. Now, the Enterprise Edition reportedly fixes those issues. However, I only have the regular version, so I can't really confirm. The other options are Labpano Pilot 1 at $1,800 and Pilot Era at $2,800. Deal makers, okay, they can record stabilized video with no stitching needed at up to 4K. They can also shoot at 8K with in-camera stitching. So the stitching is not in real time, but the camera can stitch the video automatically, like when you're on your way home. And the stabilization is pretty good, better than the Theta X. The Pilot Era also has built-in GPS, so it's currently the camera recommended by Go-Through for Street View. Now, deal breakers. Well, besides the price, you saw that the shadows are very dark. The gamma is way too low and there's almost no detail in the shadows. There's also no app for mobile editing. So those are the best 360 cameras for videos. Now what about for photos? Well, I've actually already done a video about the best 360 cameras for virtual tours, but since then there have been a few changes. And stick around to the end. It's like a Marvel movie with an Easter egg for the real fans. First, let's talk about the most affordable virtual tour camera. Can you get a decent virtual tour camera for under $200? Well, I'm going to show you some photos and let you decide. These photos are totally unedited and were stitched automatically. And the camera I used was under $200. In fact, at the time of this video, they're running a promo where you can buy it for $120. So which 360 camera did I use? It's called the VR Kit. It's a smart tripod that uses your phone to take 360 photos and stitches them automatically. Now there are many other smart tripods like this, but the VR Kit has a secret. They use a high quality fisheye adapter. That's why, unlike other smart tripods, the photos are fully spherical, stitched fairly smoothly, and have decent detail. Is the image quality great? Well, for $150, I don't think you can complain. But let's talk about deal breakers. First, to get good image quality, the lens has to be centered on your phone. It's a bit fussy unless you use their metal case for the iPhone 11 and 12. Second, to get smooth stitching, you have to position the lens over the middle of the tripod. And for the iPhone, it's going to be a bit off balance. So you have to be careful not to knock off your phone accidentally. Third, the dynamic range may be limited. Even when I used HDR mode, the skies are blown, at least in the iPhone version. Fourth, it takes more time to shoot compared to a 360 camera. Now, what if your budget is up to $300? My recommendation is still the same as in my virtual tour camera video. I'd still recommend the Theta SC2 or Theta SC2 for business. These are one-shot 360 cameras that are faster and easier to use. Now, how does the quality compare to the VR Kit? If you use an iPhone 13 Pro or even an old phone like the Samsung S10, the VR Kit will actually be more detailed. But the Theta SC2 will be much more convenient and will provide more consistent image quality, so it's more reliable for virtual tours. And you can take personal photos handheld. Now, what if your budget is up to $400? My recommendation is still the same as before. I'd recommend Trisio Lite 2. Now, if you're not familiar with it, it's a 360 camera with only one lens and uses a motor to rotate the camera and take 4 shots. The reason I recommend Trisio for this price range is the image quality. It's very detailed, has excellent dynamic range, very smooth stitching, and accurate colors. Now, how does the quality compare to the VR Kit? Depending on your phone, the level of detail may actually be similar. But again, Trisio will be more convenient and will have more consistent and reliable image quality. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was an update to Trisio that significantly improved the image quality. So now it looks much better, even if you choose not to edit your photos. There's also now a desktop app, which makes the workflow more convenient. Potential deal breakers, it needs to take 4 shots, so you can only use it on a tripod. You cannot use it handheld, and it's not good for capturing movement. You also can't adjust the exposure, and as of March 2022, there's no raw DNG mode yet. But in my opinion, there is no better virtual tour camera up to around $700. So at $400, the Trisio is punching well above its weight. If you want a discount, check out the link in the description. Now at $800, you can consider the Theta X, which is better in some ways. You saw how it's one of the best 360 cameras for videos. It is also one of the best 360 cameras for photos. It captures 360 photos at up to 11K resolution and can stitch HDR photos automatically in camera and has very accurate colors. I also like the built-in feature for removing yourself from the photo automatically, which is very useful for virtual tours. Now, how does the Trisio Lite compare to the Theta X? I found they have very similar detail and similar dynamic range, but Theta X is a bit soft at the stitch line, whereas Trisio Lite is sharp throughout. Now, the advantage of Theta X is that it's a true one-shot 360 camera, so you can use it handheld and it can capture movement. The issue with the Theta X is that if you use HDR, then there will be ghosting, but Ricoh said that they might add handheld HDR mode that will remove ghosting. Now, how does the Theta X compare to the Theta Z1? Well, Theta X is actually more detailed than the Theta Z1, but the Z1 has larger sensors and can shoot HDR in RAW with anti-ghosting algorithm. So if you know how to edit photos, the Theta Z1 will look better than the Theta X. But if you don't edit your photos, then the Theta X will be better for you. Now, one of the questions I got from the previous video was, what about the Insta360 One X2 or One R? Why didn't you mention them? Well, as I said, they're two of the best 360 cameras for videos, but I didn't mention them in my video for Best Virtual Tour Cameras 2022, and the reason is because they're okay for photos, but just not as good as these other options. But if you're already using them for 360 videos, then they can do a fine job for virtual tours as well. If you want to see the other options I recommended for virtual tours, or you want to use these cameras to create virtual tours for Google Street View or Google Earth, check out my other video. But before you do that, I have a surprise for you. How would you like a camera that can capture videos or photos with 6 degrees of freedom? One that you can actually afford and is portable. Don't miss my next video. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in 360.